What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access, and today we have the honor and the privilege of being joined by Lord Finesse. Thank you for coming through, sir.
Salute, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time because when the only real time I interviewed you was for The Awakening back in the day. So it's been a minute.
Man, talking about that's like 25 years.
Yeah, 25 years. So I'm glad we could finally reconnect. And then I actually got you in my book, The History of Gangster Rap. I took a picture of you in exhibit that I used when one time we were all on Sunset. So that worked out well because I did shout you out for the message, but we'll get to all that. So right now, Lord Finesse just put out recently the Motown State of Mind, where he remixed and reimagined some classic records. So I wanted to get, how was the process for you of selecting the songs that you decided to tackle?
Well, I think the way I selected the songs, there were a lot of childhood favorites, from I Wanna Be Where You Are to Switch. Man, people sleep on that record, Switch. They'll Never Be. That record always had a good feel. It was just like a ballad that would come on 1 a.m. or something. You catch it on WBLS or something. So to actually, be able to speed that record up and touch it. And of course, I like it. And, Marvin Gaye, I Want You. I mean, all these records was favorite records, all the way down to Sister's Love. Sister's Love was more of a personal record because if you ever watch the Mack, when they doing the Players Ball, they would, when they pull up, you got Sister's Love on stage and they're performing. I mean, the sound wasn't the greatest, but the energy of the record was dope. So that was one of the peculiar requests that I asked when I asked Motown, for when I asked them for that session, they had no idea why I asked them for that session or what I was going to do. Like I said, it was a favorite of mine, and it was a song that was in a movie but was never on the soundtrack. So I definitely wanted to bring back that nostalgia. And plus, people who know the Mack movie very well know exactly what I'm talking about. So to bring that back to life and do what I did with it, and we got an instrumental available on a box set, I just think it's a nice collector's piece.
And with the Mack in particular, of course, with a lot of elements in the movie with the pimping and stuff, that's more, I'd say, synonymous with maybe Oakland or the West Coast or something. What was it about that made that really appeal to you in a certain way?
It was the bass line. It was just the energy, how they were singing it, the chorus. That song had energy. It just felt now is the time. It had a Black exploitation feel. And even now, what we're going through with the protests and the COVID, and I mean, now is the time, on so many levels. Now is the time, one, get our shit together. Now is the time, if you're in a house and you've been trapped in a house since March, if you don't come out of this with no type of vision or idea, it's just wasted time. You might as well just give up,
Right. I agree. Well, I thought you mentioned the Marvin Gaye with I Want You, and the thing that I thought was interesting was that's one of his, lyrically, a very somber, I guess, look at love or desire in a way. So for you constructing the way that you redid it, how did you look at the lyrics and what he was saying to kind of merge the sonics of what you were going to be doing?
Right. I mean, with the Marvin Gaye, that plan was already in place, due to the fact that I kind of took that earlier and flipped it around and resequenced it. Yo, Lynch, interview. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that was kind of in pocket already, So only thing I wanted to do was kind of EQ it and use elements that people didn't use before, bring out certain things in the song that people didn't hear before, and kind of resequence it, and then gave it an intro with the chorus harmonies to open the song up. I thought was real good. It gave it a nice groove, a nice feel.
And with that, using different elements and different things, with sampling and being a producer as well, how did you approach it creatively and sonically, looking at this remixing, and how have you always done that versus actually producing, especially when you're sampling?
Well, this remix, it was just bringing a different energy, a different vibe to these songs. So it depends on which song. Each song had a different approach. Like with where I want to be where you are, I think we replayed a Fender Rose, and my boy Young World put a solo in the break of the record. You know, what I like it, that was, I think, the most challenging and complicated one, because anybody that knows that record by DeBarge know that that bass line, that groove is very dominant. And when you think of that record, you think of the horn. You know, you thinking about the whole groove. So for me to touch it and put a whole nother melodic vibe to it, that makes you kind of forget about the original groove, I felt great. I felt great about that, because if you listen to it and you never heard the bars, you'll think that was the original, you know, because it feels that good.
Yeah, and I think that one too, speaking of the feel of it, your version or reimagination of it, I think is one of the ones I would say that has the most dramatic difference from the original record.
Right.
So sonically and structurally, what made you want to make such a dramatic change?
Because I feel with R&B, if you're gonna do something to it, if you're gonna give it a different vibe, I'm big on melodies, I'm big on chords, and I think when you listen to R&B music, if you can't predict the direction or the vision that the producer is doing when it comes on, I think that's the whole surprise of it all, is when it comes on and the chords come in and they start taking you on the vibe or taking you on the trip, and you trying to figure out, like, where's this going? And the groove is just solid. I mean, the vibe on I Like It, man, when we was doing it and I was hearing those keys and those chords and the change up, it's like two change ups after the original breakthrough, and then to take the vocals that nobody never heard before and open the song up with it, open the song up with a roll and a break, and then go into the groove. I thought that was nice. I thought that I was very impressed with that with myself. Like, oh, this is gonna be dope.
Yeah, and I think it does. I think that what you did works throughout the whole project, but I do think I Like It was probably my favorite because it's the most dramatic difference of, at least to me, of the original versus what you did. And I think that shows, your talent and what you were doing with the project, which leads me to wonder with, as you're well aware, with rap, a lot of times people had criticized it because there is no melody, there is no chords, other than unless they bring in a sample sometimes, and that's takes over as the melody or what have you. So for you, as a producer, as a musician, as somebody that's making music, how have you learned or navigated that you don't always need melody, but using melody?
I always go by feel. I don't really figure out how it feels to me. At the end of the day, is the greatest thing that I look at. I don't worry about how I'm gonna approach certain things. It's just at the end, how do I want it to feel? And feel is everything, because the feel is what you gravitate to and want to kind of keep listening to over and over, because you like the direction and the feel. And I think with R&B, you wanna just have people always wanna listen to it, and it be attractive to the ear. So if somebody else, walk by and they hear it and they go, "Yo, what's that?" Because that's what I think that project is gonna do for a long time. Is people gonna hear it and they're gonna ask somebody, "Well, what's that?" And when they ask them what's that, then they're gonna play it, and then they're gonna play it for somebody, and they're gonna play it for somebody, and it's gonna kind of keep traveling on for quite some time, I think.
Yeah. And then ending it with the medley, where did that come from, and why did you end up sequencing it that way?
Well, a medley was kind of an idea I seen Cool V do, right? But his mix ain't as accurate as what I did, so it ain't the same exact thing he did. But years ago, he had a mix that was dope. But the difference was what I was doing. I was able to take more Jackson parts from different songs and increase. So you got like 4 different songs in one song. And then the arrangement was just, that was a lot of work. Like, so it wasn't taking a 2-track and putting drums to a 2-track. That was more, at the end of the day, I was dealing with maybe 40 something tracks at the end of the day. So to sequence that and send it to an engineer to mix, just the mix pattern alone, because you got to make sure every single transition, makes sense.
Gotcha. And with that too, I think it's interesting because throughout your career, the progression that you've had, like doing arrangement and doing mixing and doing production and all the different things, DJing, of course, etc. How have you found the different skills that you have overlap versus do they ever compete? Like you look at some more as a mixer versus a producer, or does that ever factor into things?
I always look at it from a producer standpoint, you know. I mean, being a DJ plays a part because you have knowledge. If you look behind me, to have knowledge of a lot of these records and to at one time listen to every single record you see behind me, my knowledge of records and the ideas that I got, because I could hear something and I could think about one of them records. I'm thinking about grooves. I'm always thinking about grooves and bass lines and different things. So even if you told me, if I was working with you and you told me you wanted a sound, and I might ask you, well, what would you compare your sound to? And once you tell me, well, this record, this dude did this record, it's not like I'm gonna copy the record that somebody did. It's more like I need to understand the elements and the ingredients in the record so I can get a full vision of what I'm gonna do or what I'm gonna present to you.
Right.
So I'm a dude that deal with ingredients. I don't like to copy nothing. I like to kind of, think of something and go from scratch.
Okay. So that leads me into going back a ways with the Funky Technician. You were credited as doing the arrangement with like Mike Smooth, Premier, and Shlomo. So what does that mean in that instance?
I mean, with the Funky Technician, I had no production skills whatsoever. So that was really Diamond and Premier and Show and Mike, helping putting all that together. Me just purely being an artist, me purely, I had input of what I wanted to rhyme on, but from the other standpoint, it was just being purely an artist, not nothing to do with production at all.
So what did the arrangement quote unquote mean? Or what did you
Arrangement meaning, how I structure the rhymes, what I might want Premier to cut, or what I might want Mike Smooth to cut, so I kind of knew the hooks and, so arrangement in that point in the say I had.
In the beginning, hip-hop was ruled by the East Coast. Then the West Coast rose to prominence, thanks to gangster rap. Hip-hop changed the world. Gangster rap changed the narrative.
I'm representing for the gangsters all across the world.
And then changed the world again.
Cause I'll come and take your life away.
The history of gangster rap features unheard stories, unseen photos and documents, all with exclusive interviews from the founders and players who shaped gangster rap.
I think a real gangster rapper has to scare you a little bit.
The history of gangster rap written by veteran rap journalist Soren Baker. In stores now.
Yo, what up? This is DJ Quick. Be sure to pick up my homeboy Soren Baker's book, The History of Gangster Rap, if you really want to know what we do.